In today's Daily Cyber, what I'm going to be talking about is 7 key areas that you need to look at when you're starting a new idea, transition, or even a business. So really excited about this one. Let's hack at it. Okay, so I'm really excited about this podcast. And the reason why that is I get asked, at least 3-4 times a week online through LinkedIn or, DM messages. Brandon, I'm looking at transitioning from, X to cybersecurity, or I'm looking at opening up a business. Do you have any recommendations? And this question I get asked frequently with people that are transitioning from, a lot of times, positions that they're really frustrated, they just don't like. And what they're doing is they're transitioning to something new. And they're really excited about this new project. So if it's, from one job to another career, from its career X to cybersecurity, or if they're opening up a new business, I've created this 7, steps or 7 areas you need to look at. I find each entrepreneur, each person, transitioning needs to take this in really, really deep, because it really kind of gives you the foundation, the core steps to make sure you're on the right track and that you have momentum going forward. Now, my name is Brandon Krieger. I'm a cybersecurity professional. I've been in numerous types of, businesses myself, from, physical security to health and wellness to marketing and IT to cybersecurity. So this video, this kind of ideas I'm bringing from my health and wellness days, as well as my marketing days and my business, owning my own company, because these areas really taught me the difference of having a business mindset, being an entrepreneur, the strategies that you need to have to be successful in any project that you work on. If it's, like I said, transitioning from job to job, right? Or from career to career, to opening up a business. And, my podcasts are a lot around cybersecurity, but these concepts can be used in any area of this, concept of transitioning, right? And it's so important you know this. And let's kind of go over them quickly, and then I'll go over them in a little bit more depth. So first is know thyself. All right. Second is figure out your path. Third is write out a plan. Fourth is SMART goals. So the acronym SMART, S.M.A.R.T. 5 is test to measurable results. 6 is be accountable. And then 7 is understanding your finances. So these 7 areas to look at are so important, because you have to have this foundation to be able to transition, to be able to, move forward. First and foremost is know thyself, right? If you don't know yourself inside and out of how you learn, what you like, what you don't like, what are you looking for in the sense of money, finances, job, travel, relationships at work, clientele, or customers that you're going to be working with, even colleagues, and kind of even diving a little bit deeper, like what's the company stand for, right? For either the company that you're going to be working for or the company that you're developing. What does it really stand for you? Is it ethical practices? Are you helping the environment? Are you helping society? Are you helping the economy? Like, what are you doing that's really deep and part of your core foundation? Knowing that and being secure in that will help to figure out the next step is your plan, right? Figure out kind of your path and your plan of how you're going to do this. There's not writing out your plan, just kind of figuring it out. So how do I want to get there? And a lot of times what I recommend is look at someone that's already doing it and reverse engineer it. And that could be even interviewing that person or people. Now, I recommend try to find at least 5 people that are doing what you want to do, that have at least 5 years to 10 years experience. Right, in that area that you want to get into. And the reason for that is that they've gone through their trials and tribulations. They've gone through their challenges. They've gone through failures in business, but they also have gone through growth strategies where the business has grown and what to do when it grows. How to look at shipping, receiving, customer service, client acquisition, like all these things that you would have to look at, being in business, and they'll help you to streamline through the challenges that they have had on both, not being successful in business as well as the challenge of growing business. So there's challenges on both sides. So then figuring out that path and reverse engineering and looking at, if you're looking at changing careers, what education do you need? So, okay, what education do I need for this? Do I need formal education of university degree in computer science, cybersecurity, or can I do this with just certification? And that's why I talked to 5 different people, because each person's going to have their own story on how they got there. Some people might have just done it out of, I'm passionate about this and hey, it worked out and I love it. Some people might have said, look, I lost my job. I was really kind of hit rock bottom. There was nothing really else I could think of at that time. So I started doing this because I liked it. And then all of a sudden it started to work out. And then I ran into this challenge, and they have that story that they've gone through. So everyone's going to be different. So figuring out that path and then writing out a plan. So literally writing out your plan. Okay, so I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. I need to do this certification. I need to get this, college diploma or university degree, whatever that plan is, and write out, if you're going to work, which companies you want to work for, and, who do you need to contact, and what's the positions and what's the qualifications. If you're opening up a company, you need to look at, what's the company, what's the service you're going to provide, really go deep. What's your rates you're going to look at providing, what's the landscape of the industry, who's the other companies that are doing the same thing as you, and, what's their unique selling proposition, and, what's going to be yours compared to theirs. And then what's going to be your price points, and what's going to be, your hours work. Do you need to get contracts? If you're looking at working with clients in a company, do you have, client contracts? Do you have, terms of service, whatever that may be. So you really have to write out this plan of everything you need. Then number 4 is look at S.M.A.R.T goals. So let's go back through. 1 is know thyself. 2 is figuring out your path. 3 is writing out your plan. 4 now is S.M.A.R.T goals. So S.M.A.R.T stands for specific, measurable, action-oriented, realistic, and time. So specific, be very specific on what you want to accomplish. So I'll use this as an example. Last year, or a little before last year, I wanted to get my CompTIA Security Plus exam. Right, so that's very specific. I want to pass this. Boom. Measurable. When do I want to pass it by? Right, and this is kind of measurable as well as timed. Right, I have to measure my time in the sense of I want to complete it by, say, December 2018. I'm just using this as an example. So then I know what my time is and how am I going to measure that? Right. Okay. So each month I need to study at least, and then break that down to say for me, it was every day I need to study at least for 2 hours a day, 5 days a week. And then, you multiply that by, 2 times 5 is 10. So you're about 40 hours a month, and then get that going to, okay, so at 6 months, I should have this, and I should have at least, and then for me, it was at least, 90% of the material down, and then I'm scoring around 80%. So now I have measurable. Right now, what's my action? My action was now go back to now I have I have to study 2 hours a day. So now what I do is I put it in my calendar each time at night or whenever it's most feasible for me. I block off that time. So now it's action oriented. So now I have it scheduled. Now make it realistic. So for me, there's no way I could study 8 hours a day. I just can't do it. I just can't retain that much information. I can't sit still for that long to be able to consume that much information. So I use 2 hours because the first hour would be studying and the second hour would be testing, right? And then writing notes. So I had that breakup because that's how I knew I study. I'm a kinesthetic studier. So I can read, but I have to do some sort of action to make it tangible, make it absorb for myself. And a lot of times that's why I do podcasts and videos, is because then I can act it out. I can write it out, and then I can use the information. And then, of course, then realistic in time. So realistic, okay, is it feasible? Is it feasible for me to do it in 6 months? Could I do it in 90 days? Or was it going to take me a year? Really understand, where's that benchmark for you? Now, it can be a little bit dynamic. It doesn't have to be too fixed, but you have to set yourself, some sort of goal. And so then what happens is you can test to measurable results. So write all these SMART goals, and these are going to be your benchmark to be able to find out what's working, what's not. So you're testing the measurable results. So Brandon, in 6 months, when am I going to be able to pass this the Security Plus exam? And what happened with my scenario, I wasn't. I actually failed, I think, twice and then passed on the third one. So what happened was I needed more time. So I probably feasibly maybe needed 8 months to do it. But at least it tested me out and I could see what was working and what's not. So these are the test to measurable results. And then be accountable. So then I was accountable to myself to say, look, I need to write this exam, and I went and wrote it. Even though maybe I think I was scoring around 75, 80% on the practice exams, I was accountable that at 6 months I was going to write the exam. So then I went and I wrote it. And to make myself even more accountable, I was doing YouTube videos about it. So here comes the accountability, and you really have to stick to these, 5 and 6 of the measurable and accountability, because these are going to teach you what's working and what's not. Now, the challenge of this is people are going to, use this as, oh, I don't want to feel bad about what I'm doing, or I don't want to feel bad that I'm a failure. This is not about being a failure. This is not about getting down on yourself. This is about understanding the system and seeing what works for you and what needs to be modified and changed to make it work for you. There's no different from studying to, your career to being in business. It's all about being dynamic. It's all about testing measurable results and then speed of implementation. So you test to a measurable result. Is it successful or did it not work? If it didn't work, what do you need to change? Now you have these SMART goals. You kind of have your benchmark. You can see, did it work on the time? Did it work on my actions? Did it work on how I measured? Did it work on how specific I was? Does it work how was I really, realistic in my goal? Then you can go back through and say, no, the time wasn't proper. I needed more time to do this. I got to a certain point and I just didn't know the information. Okay, now I need to extend it. Right? I need to extend it, they say 30 days. In 30 days, let me test through that 30 days, make sure I have these measurable ways of benchmarking test to measurable results. So for me, it was practice tests. Am I hitting 80%? Am I hitting 85%? Am I hitting 90%? So in the end of 30 days, okay, am I ready to write the next test? Boom, go. So these are that hold me accountable. So it's so important to do that and not bring so much emotion and break yourself down, because a lot of people go through this, turmoil of, oh, I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. That might not be the case. You just might have a different way of doing something. Right? So if it's studying, if it's success, it might be a different way of doing it, but you need this baseline to be able to test it. And you need to let go of some stories and the emotions that you might be telling yourself. And we all go through this. I've gone through this as well, where you're like, you know what? I'm just not smart enough to learn this. This is too hard. You have to kind of go, okay, stop. It's hard right now, but why is it hard? Right? Is it because of the system that I'm using to study? Is it I'm using the wrong system for myself? Do I need to modify that there's a better way for me? And then find a better way, test another way, test the third way, test a fourth way until something sticks with you and it works. So this is why it's so important to be able to do this. So go back through, all 6 points so far. 1, you got to know yourself, right? You got to know who you are and your core foundation. Right? And be comfortable with that. Now, if you're having a challenge kind of to find yourself and you're going through emotional turmoil, speak to someone, speak to, several people, get that out, talk to people. It's so important to get help if you're stuck, right? To ask for help. Now, I'm trying to think of this in a guy's perspective, right? A lot of times, we're thinking, we're guys, we're men, we'll just, put our head down, go through it. That can help and people can do it. But if you find if it's not working, you're testing measurable results, you put your head down and you're still running the same problem. And, the cliche is, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results is the definition of insanity. Well, if you're doing the same action and you're still not seeing success, change what you're doing. And this is why I always recommend, I do it myself. I have professionals that I speak to when I know I'm stuck. I have colleagues, I have professionals I speak to. I'll do a session with them. And it gets me out of my mindset, because sometimes we can get looped. We can get stuck in that story. And then what happens is once you do, boom, once you're out of that story, boom, now you start to see momentum. So first, know thyself. Second, figure out your path. Third is write out your plan. Fourth is SMART goals. 5 is test to measurable results. 6 is be accountable. And the last one is 7 is understand your finances. So this is a huge one that being in marketing and working with different types of clients, mentoring clients, the one challenge I've always seen is understanding your finances, right? Understanding your profit, your loss, your burn rate, your cost per acquisition. And let me talk about burn rate, because this is important. When people are transitioning from, say, a job they don't like to a career that they're trying to go into, maybe they don't have an experience, they're just trying to jump, and they're so frustrated with their current position or current job that they're just going to jump because they think it's going to be a better opportunity to go to the next opportunity, right? And this can be for a job going to a different career, to a job going to opening up your own business. Burn rate comes down to this: how much money do you have that's going to cover your costs for the next 6 months, 1 year, 2 years? Right? And you got to have not just that base, but you got to have more, right? In the sense of something might come up. Say, for example, you might get car problems. You might have, your computer might die. Might need some maintenance at your house, right? Whatever that may be, you need to have extra money on top of your day-to-day, your day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month expenses. So I'm going to use some round numbers here just to kind of really hit this home. So say, for example, your expenses are for the month is $4,000, right? So that's what it costs you to live your life, pay all your bills from cable, phone, your car, your insurance, you name it, everything, food, everything, all in total is $4,000 a month. So for that, you would need at least $48,000 a year to cover your costs. $96,000 for 2 years. So kind of on the same page. If you need to listen to that back, rewind that and go back through that. But this is extremely important. So if you have 2 years of run rate that you can go through to be able to take off your job, build up yourself, and in your plan, you're going to be able to do it within 6 months to 1 year, and you have an extra year for just in case something happens, then there's a better opportunity for you to kind of jump and go out on your own. Now, only do that if it fits your plan. I'm not saying, that's the perfect situation, but that is a great situation to go into. What I'm finding more and more is people don't have that burn rate, don't have that money behind them, and then they're jumping. So they're jumping with maybe 30 days, 60 days of, savings. And then what happens is, because they're not able to get a job right away in the new career, or their business is not picking up as fast as they thought, now they're struggling. So now not only the stress of changing in the transition, but now the stress of money is on your mind. What am I going to do? How am I going to pay for this? Oh my God. And now you start to worry. This is why if you don't have this investment in yourself and that money, have at least 2 years, I would recommend you don't jump. Still work at the same, place that you're working. Yes, I understand if it's, you really don't like it and you're frustrated. Build up that career or that business on the side until it makes consistently, if yours $4,000 a month, you need at least $8,000 a month gross, right? And after taxes and all that, and after expenses, should be hopefully around, say, $6,000, give you a $2,000 profit and float each month. Now, I'm using those as round numbers. You have to figure this out for yourself, and you have to do the math, right? I would recommend at least 100%, markup. So if it's $4,000, you need $8,000, net, not gross, net, right? So your business gross, and I'm using on business terms right now, but your gross in your business would need to be, I'd say, around $12,000 to $16,000 a month, right? And now, again, depending on you have to look at your profit and loss sheet. You have to look at how much you spend of your overhead of your business. There's all different factors. And I recommend you highly speak to some financial advisor. I know myself, I do mentoring. So if you want to sit down with me, let me know. But you have to figure that out so you know how much money you have. And here's a key tip is you're making that money consistently for 6 months nonstop. So from January to like June, you keep making, say, $16,000 gross with your company. Right. And then what happens is at that time, then you can look at jumping. Don't make it month 1 or month 2 and then jump and think, oh my God, I'm successful. The reason why that is things happen in business. Problems with inventory, problems with maybe service. Maybe you're building up a team and one of your main team members leave for a job or something else. Whatever that may be, it might hit your business. So you want to have 6 months of consistent business that you've gone through kind of some of the cobwebs, the challenges, and you've weeded through that. Now you got your systems all in place, everything's working and streamlined, and then all of a sudden, boom, the money's coming in consistently. And then at 6 months, at that 6 months mark, make a decision and make sure that, again, if it's $4,000 that you're making with your current income, or say your over is $4,000, you're making about $6,000 of your career, your job, make sure you're making at least $8,000, right? Take home in your pocket, not gross. And here's a mistake that I've seen a few business owners make, new entrepreneurs, is they talk about their gross. Oh yeah, my company makes this, my company makes that. That's great. How much do you bring home? How much is your net? No, my company makes $16,000. So I make $16,000. No. Your company makes 16 after expenses of rent, hydro, cable, employees, whatever that means, consultants, contractors, whatever. You say your business only brings home, $10,000, $8,000. What is that net? Right? And that's very important to understand the difference, right? Because you don't want to get caught that you assume that your business makes $16,000, but what happens is you're not paying the taxes properly. You're not, incorporating all the costs of your company, and now you're in a deficit. And then at the end of the year, now you have to pay taxes on that money, and you don't have money put aside, right? In Canada, you have to pay GST, you have to pay your taxes, you might have to pay CPP or EI, like all this great stuff, right? In that, you want to make sure that you're having everything covered. So that's why it's so important to know your finances. So again, I'm going to go back through these, all 7 now. First is know thyself. Second is figure out your path. Third is write out a plan. Fourth is SMART goals. 5 is test to measurable results. 6 is be accountable. And 7 is understanding your finances. I bring this up and the reason why, and to give you some context of why I keep talking about this and really hitting this home, is I keep getting asked ever since I've been in marketing, and this was around 2004, these questions about, hey, Brandon, I have this great idea. I want to do this in business. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm looking at starting this idea. And when you ask these questions, these core fundamental questions, I start to find out that people didn't really have an answer. They didn't have these areas figured out. And then when they did, and they sat down and really did their due diligence on that, their business started to succeed. They started to succeed not just personally, but also professionally. And then I got people asking about career advice when the IT or in cybersecurity, when they had this framework down and answer them. Also now you can start to see I know what I'm going to do. I know I'm going to talk to, I'm really excited about this. Boom, boom, boom. I'm going to do this in the next 6 months. They really had it down and they didn't put themselves under stress. The ones that didn't do this right from the start, I found struggled more, right? And had more challenges. Right? And then started to point fingers at different things. They started to say, okay, well, it's that person. It's that one thing. Okay, great. It's that one thing. What did you do to fix it? And how long has that been going on for? And when you ask them the hard questions, it's been going on for 3 years. Okay, so in 3 years, what have you done to try to resolve that? And well, what do you mean? That's what we do. It's like, okay, but it's not working. Why don't you change it? And then all of a sudden the emotional attachment to it is, well, because and I'll give you an example. Say, for example, we're working with a bookkeeper, right? And the bookkeeper is just having nothing but problems. Their journal entries are wrong. The balances are off. when they do their balance at the end of the month, it's off, each and every month, and they keep having to fix it. The owner has to come in and resolve it and fix it and go through the receipts and all that. Well, this is costing time, and they're paying for that person to do that. And say, for example, they file their taxes. Now the accountant, right? They file their taxes, get their accountant to do their tax at the end of the year. Now the accountant has to go through it and is reviewing it. Now I've heard colleagues of that I work with have gone through these issues, and I bring up the scenario because this was one I know it cost one of my colleagues, I think it was like $10,000 or $15,000, because of not only the errors that were made, but what it cost to fix the accounting issues and to resolve it, to get the books up to date, to get them cleaned up. And then I asked the business owner, like, why haven't you got a better bookkeeper? Well, because of, I don't really want to have to retrain someone, but it's costing you money. It's costing you time. Like, remove, the emotion of that. It's costing you money. And then when they sat down, they did the numbers on themselves and thinking, okay, how much has it cost me over the last 3 years? I've paid $10,000 last year. I paid another $15,000 the year before to get my books fixed. So it's like $25,000. I'm like, yeah, but that's $25,000 that could have gone into your business, that could have gone into your savings, that could have been invested back into different things. And also you see it hit home like, oh my God, I need to make a change, and then make a change sooner than later because it was costing them. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying the bookkeeper was a terrible person, just they weren't good at that role. So having that test of measurable results and then being accountable is so important, because we need to be able to evolve and make these changes. And like I said, I've seen these time and time again. I have many stories of people going through these challenges and not being able to let go and transition. I know even for myself, there's been times where in my business where I hung on too long to an idea or a concept that I should have let go, that ended up costing me time or cost me money. So I use this for myself consistently now to be able to do that. And I know when something's not working, I will let it go faster now, because I know it's not efficient with my time, my effort, and my energy to be able to do this. So that's why it's so important to know these 7 steps. Now I'm going to document them, have them in the description below, so you can write them down and go through them, and then use them from whatever idea or concept that you're working with. If it's transitioning from your career to cybersecurity, or if you're looking at being an entrepreneur, using this as your foundation to really draw out your plan and understand where you're going. I mean, I'm seeing right now, and this is, something personal for me. Like I said, I'm getting about 4 or 5 private message emails, people asking about, transitioning. A lot of them are, hey, Brandon, I've seen you online. I want to transition to cybersecurity. What do I need to do? And then I'm going through these questions, right? Do you know yourself? Tell me a little bit about yourself. Have you kind of really know yourself inside and out? What's your path? What's your, what direction you want to go in cybersecurity? What's the plan for that? Have you wrote out goals for it? What are you going to test to make sure that you're hitting these benchmarks and goals? Boom, 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 and I go through them, being accountable, then understanding when can you change? Can you afford to change now, or do you need to take your time with your current position? And then I get people that are coming, maybe even over, immigrants that are coming to Canada, they're asking this. So again, I ask them, can you afford to move here? Can you afford to do that? Right? And these are questions not to discriminate, but these are hard questions that a lot of people need to be asked to make sure that you're making the right steps, right? You're making the right transition so that you don't get caught in a scenario or a situation that you can't afford, or you're now in more stress because you jumped. And this is really an important personal topic for me, is because I see so many people struggle. I see so many people go through stress of the work that they don't like to jump and go into more stress of something that they thought they would love, but now are starting to really dislike, because now it's more pressure, more stress. And that's another thing I just want to add. When it comes to being an entrepreneur, to being in business, knowing yourself and understanding what it takes to be in business is so important when it comes to the mental, emotional factor. Business is not easy. It's not something that you just jump and you get into and all of a sudden you're making $100,000, $150,000. That if you do that and you're successful and you had no stress, no challenges, that's amazing. You're probably a unicorn in the industry of being in business. Most people go through some sort of struggles, be it with clients, be it with their systems, be it with manufacturing, being with development, marketing, whatever that may be. They go through challenges, they go through struggles, what makes them stronger in their business, and they learn from them. And that's how they evolve and become smarter at, being a business owner. That's why business is not easy. Being an owner of any company, any solution is not easy. It's a lot of hard work, takes resilience, takes a lot of sweat equity, takes a lot of emotional strength. It comes down to is that when something happens, you don't get frustrated. You don't get too down on yourself. You easily transition. You be patient and compassionate with yourself, and you move. I want to give you that. I want to share that because I've heard so many people when they talk to me, Brandon, you don't understand. You don't understand how hard it is. You don't know the struggles I've gone through. I said, okay, well, yeah, I don't know like your personal, your family, anything like that. I completely understand. Each is individual. Are you talking about your business struggles? And then when I explain to them their struggles, and here's something for psychology. If you can explain a situation better than the person that's actually experiencing it, a lot of the times in their mind, the subconscious mind, they think and put you as an expert in that area. Well, I've gone through a lot of struggles when it comes to business. And when I talk to people about, remember that time, you probably have gone through this when you had a client, they didn't pay, I had to follow them, you had to call them, and then they said they were going to, and then, you follow up with again, you haven't received the check or an e-transfer, and you're following up with them and you just wonder what's going on, and all of a sudden, that check now is a really big check because now it's the one that's covering your bills for the next month. Now you're under stress and now you're looking at getting new clients while, getting that check to come in, and you're doing all that. And when I go through scenarios like that, you hear people go, oh my God, like I'm going through that, like just as we speak, what did you do to resolve that? And then you talk about like, I had to get on the phone. I had to, set up a meeting with them, try to figure out what was going on. They were a great client. Something happened with them. I just had to figure out, how we could work together, work out a payment plan, whatever that may be, and then look at what our relationship would be going forward. Or sometimes you just, have to look at other options. Some are, and I haven't had to do this myself, but some people have to go to the collection route. Some people have to go and look at payment plans, and look at other different options. So these are the things and the struggles that business owners go through, but you can't get stressed about it, even though it sometimes gets really, really hard and the pressure's on you about paying your bills, getting things covered. You have to pay for your staff. You have to do all that, make sure it's coming in, especially when you're starting out. So that's why these core areas, this framework of these 7 questions and areas that I'm providing you really need to look at and understand before you go through with your plan. You take action on that, just so that you're prepared on what might be coming up and you have the foundation to build on. So I'm going to leave it at that. I know I provide a lot of information about this. Hopefully it helps. Just because, like I said, I get asked this question quite a few times a week, anywhere from 4 to like 8 times a week. And I want to provide this so that, I can share that with these people that are asking these questions, that they can listen to this podcast and go through each of these steps from this podcast, as well as previous podcasts of, the career, different positions, cybersecurity, consulting, different areas that they might be interested, so they get a real deep knowledge of the cybersecurity industry. I know next week, to give you guys a little update, next week I have Adam from CompTIA, and we're going to be talking about CompTIA, their certifications, the training, what's going on in the Canadian market. So a lot of great things. And that's my focus when it comes to this podcast, the DailyCyber Podcast, is really providing great information on people that are looking at being in the cybersecurity field from starting out, the people that are in the field and looking for more information. That's my goal when it comes to doing this, and why I'm so excited and why I'm really kind of diving deep into doing this. And for me, You're probably asking, okay, so how are you doing this? Do you have a plan? Do you know yourself? Do you do all that? Yes, I do all that. And for me right now, when it comes to finances, I'm looking at consulting. I'm mentoring people. I'm doing things to build this up because I think this is so important and I'm so passionate about it. And I feel it's so important to provide this information because these are questions that I have. And if I have these questions, I'm assuming, and the people that are contacting me, they have the same type of questions. So providing this resource, being able to ask the questions of experts that are out in the field, of industry, manufacturers, certification bodies like CompTIA, and training and education to really help people be successful in the cybersecurity field is so important to me. So that's it for today's video. I'm going to leave it at that. Thank you so much for listening to my Daily Cyber. Make sure you do me a favor, subscribe wherever you're listening to this, if it's on iTunes or YouTube, or if you want to go to DailyCyber.ca, you can subscribe to any of the podcast channels there. Just love that you guys are listening and sharing information and contact me. I really appreciate that. And yeah, if you can share it out to your colleagues and provide any feedback, that'd be great. Any topics or areas you want me to cover, I'm really excited about helping and just providing more value. So that's it for today's Daily Cyber. Don't forget, software is hackable, being connected is vulnerable. I'll see you next Daily Cyber.